Hello, and welcome to the Sprinklr Coffee Club. This is Marshall Kirkpatrick, your host. I really appreciate you coming and joining us this afternoon. We've got a great show today with special guest Amber Naslund from LinkedIn. I want to give special thanks to the Sprinklr customers and partners that have joined us today. I know a lot of you are joining live. No matter what your relationship is, though, we hope that you will participate in the show. Jump on in, post your comments, your questions on YouTube, Twitter, wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching. We've got the tech to pick up the conversation, and we'll bring you right in, hear your thoughts and questions with Amber. So we've got a great show, and I am really happy to have Amber, whom I've known for a long time, on the show, and to have LinkedIn represented. LinkedIn, as I'm sure we all know, often is a place where many of the happiest moments of our careers are celebrated. And increasingly, LinkedIn is driving those happy moments when we get an exciting new job, a new position, expand our horizons. And here at Sprinklr, helping companies make their customers happier is really, really important to us. It is central to our goals. And in looking at LinkedIn and some of their activities recently, they really exemplified that. There's a couple of things I wanted to share that I thought you might find interesting from LinkedIn's activity on Twitter. There was, for example, a great poll that the company put up last week asking what you would like your future coworkers to be like. What are some of the key traits that you look for in future coworkers? Is it humility? Is it brilliance? Is it adaptability? A really interesting, thought-provoking question, I thought. And the survey says it was adaptability as the number one thing that people are looking for in their future coworkers. So that's inspiring. I also really enjoyed, I thought it was just adorable when LinkedIn posted last week the words, "Congratulations, we're sure you've done something incredible this week." And that's the kind of thing that a brand like LinkedIn can say on social really credibly. It's right on brand, and it was warmly received. It's a great brand over there. People love it, and one of my favorite contributors to that brand is our special guest today. Our guest is a serial author. She has been the co-author of several really important books, one called The Now Revolution, 7 Tips for Making Your Business Faster, Smarter, and More Social. And then she was also a contributor to the expanded version of Groundswell, New Rules for Business. She's the author of the awesome Brass Tacks Marketing blog, now over on LinkedIn. I highly recommend checking that out. And for the past year, she has been a senior content marketing evangelist at LinkedIn. And that is, of course, Amber Naslund. Amber, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, Marshall. It's nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So, Amber, you've got this fascinating sounding job as senior content marketing evangelist at LinkedIn. What does that mean? What do you do?
I get asked that a lot because it's kind of a fancy, funky title. But really, the best way to think about what I do is I'm a consultant. So I take my marketing background and work with LinkedIn's customers. Mostly, I work on the enterprise side, so larger companies, and really help them understand what good content programs look like and how to navigate kind of the universe of content marketing, and then how to apply what they do to LinkedIn to build effective programs on LinkedIn. A lot of these companies are advertisers with LinkedIn, so they advertise on our platform, and content is really the backbone of really great media performance. So I'm helping them think through how they design and architect those content programs so they can be successful.
So you're going on site with the customers?
Correct. My team does a lot of education work. So the bread and butter is we do mostly like half-day workshops with our clients. So we really roll up our sleeves and get in there and talk about the problems that they're having, do reviews of their content, help them understand where they can improve. We work in conjunction with some of our other cross-functional partners, like we have an insights team and some other teams that help us pull together the information that can help our customers understand what's working and what's not working about their content programs. And then we help them work through that. And our team also does a fair bit of broader market education. So we speak at events, we do stuff like this. We spend a lot of time in the market so that we can help hopefully convey some of the knowledge that we accumulate about LinkedIn to help everybody be more successful.
I bet. Oh my goodness, a half-day workshop with you and your team sounds awesome. So you have said that that the line between great content and not great content is often about whether the customer's needs are at the center of the content or whether it leads with a vendor's value proposition.
Yeah, that's correct. The most important thing in the content programs that I see that perform really well is that they're based on the needs, the challenges, the questions, the interests of the people they're trying to reach, as opposed to just using it purely as a promotional marketing channel to get the brand's messages into the market. And there's part of that. I mean, I think there's always room in our marketing to get our own brand messages across. But if we do that in the context of what's useful and helpful to our customers, that's the kind of content that keeps drawing people in, that keeps them coming back, that builds credibility, authority, trust, so that as somebody moves through a journey with you, they're more likely to believe that you have their best interests in mind. So when they're much closer to that point of making a decision, you're going to stand out as a helpful and trustworthy partner, as opposed to just somebody who's trying to get a deal closed.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So that can be hard for brands, and it feels related to the ROI question. How do you measure? I'm curious for you to share your thoughts on ROI and measurement in general, but how do you measure the value of that kind of content that's so customer centric?
Oh, that's such a big question. And so since we only have half an hour, I will try to be brief. But first of all, I think most companies misappropriate the term ROI, because a lot of times when people say, I need to understand the ROI of this program, what they're really asking me is, how do I know whether this is successful or not? Because there's more than one way to define success, and ROI is a financial metric, and it's certainly one of them, but it's not the only one. So first of all, I tend to backtrack and say, what are we trying to accomplish with this content program? And how can we select the metrics and measurements that align to that appropriately? Sometimes that is ROI, but oftentimes it's not, especially when we talk about early journey stuff or brand awareness stuff. That's a much longer tail program, and it's really hard to draw a straight causality. Hard to do unless you have that kind of hard data. But the other important thing is to think, I often tell people that ROI is a really lousy tactical metric. So it's bad to try to think, well, what's the ROI of me being on LinkedIn? Because the right data happening on LinkedIn. So the better question to ask is, what's the ROI of my overarching marketing investment, the big I in the ROI equation? And if I understand the broader investment I'm making in marketing, I can better tie those programs. Part of that includes marketing metrics. But part of that is, is the revenue going up and to the right? Are we preserving revenue that might be at risk? Are we reducing costs where we can? So those kinds of financial levers aren't always what we have to look at how it impacts sales, customer service, and all of those different touch points that make up a true return on a business.
As a whole machine, I know you've discussed, it's not just marketing, it's also the investment in sales, and customer success and product and ending of ROI.
Yeah.
I know I really liked something that you said recently when you were talking about top of the funnel content and brand content of our customers spent time at that stage. Can you tell us what you mean by that?
Absolutely. So, I work in the marketing field and have for a long time, and I understand how important it is, especially in the B2B space, to generate demand. So we're always worried about leads and what's happening, especially pieces of data that allow our salespeople to reach out. And so we focus a lot on the bottom of the funnel, A, because it's easier to measure, and B, because it's one way that we can actually demonstrate performance. The problem is we get really tunnel vision. So we see a healthy balance of making sure that you are educating the market that doesn't know about you and helping introduce them to your brand and get them acquainted with who you are, what you do, what you stand for, and action-focused content, which actually gives them something to do, and have to do both, because neglecting one for the other, if you over-index on brand, you give nobody any action steps to take, and that's a lot of effort and time and money that's wasted. But if you have so many opportunities, you're ready to buy from you, but they'd like to understand a little bit more about who you are and what you stand for, so that it's to the top of their mind, because your brand has been in their peripheral vision this whole time. So it really does bear out that you have to do a balance of brand and demand. And there's some pretty hefty data actually to both.
You have said elsewhere that consumers who have seen multiple pieces of top of the funnel content convert at the bottom of the funnel multiple
That's
times.
correct. So like when we look at our paid media programs, for instance, like sponsored content programs on LinkedIn, if we have a balance of members on the platform who have seen brand level advertising and also they can take, we see as much as a 6 times greater conversion rate from people who have seen a balance of both brand and demand-oriented content, as opposed to people who only see acquisition-focused messaging, because that halo effect of the brand really does warm people up to understanding your company and what you stand for and what you do. And that education process is something that we can't undervalue. So it really bears out in the data too.
You've said that if you were a salesperson, you would much rather speak to a prospect who has consumed 10 or 12 pieces of educational top of the funnel content before getting on the phone than someone who just downloaded a white paper once.
1,000%, because gosh, like, first of all, I love sales. I work in a sales organization. Sales is a difficult job on its best day. And I want the people that I work with on a sales capacity to really be able to focus on being consultative, on helping their clients solve problems, on being that true trusted partner that they need, as opposed to having to do the legwork to educate a prospect about the company, about the brand. Like that's the job of marketing, and that's what we should be able to do at scale, and help people understand what we're about through marketing programs, so that salespeople can do what they're great at, which is hopefully building that consultative relationship with their clients and connecting the dots between the problems they have and the solutions that the salespeople can offer. It feels like a terrible injustice for marketers to leave the education work up to the salespeople who are really good at selling. So like, let's let them do what they're good at, and let's help them out by greasing the skids a little bit and removing some of the friction from that sales process by educating the market through content.
Who are some brands that you have been inspired by along those lines? Who's doing a really good job of that? Anyone you can tell us about?
Yeah, there's actually several companies that I work with, and I hope they won't mind me mentioning them, because I'm doing so in such a positive context. One of the brands that I think is doing an absolutely killer job is EY, formerly Ernst& Young. They're in the business services space, something that a lot of people wouldn't think is particularly sexy, but they balance really well this idea of needing to educate the market about who they are and what they do, and also giving people very definitive actions to take so that they can engage with the EY team. Um, and they do a great job of visual branding on the LinkedIn feed. So they just kind of have this consistent, steady presence that I really respect. They're not trying to go win awards at Cannes Lion. They're actually focused on really building useful content programs that help their customers. And I respect that all day long. So I reference them a lot in my workshops as somebody to look up to. On the consumer brand side, another company that does this really well is Hilton Hotels. And if you watch how they balance like the 100-year legacy of their brand, the innovation that they're trying to create in the hospitality space, and they feature a lot about what they're doing with technology and hotels of the future. And then they also talk about to various audiences, from people who are developing Hilton hotels to guests who are staying at their properties. And they do a really good job of messaging and talking through their content in the context of what's useful for those audiences. So I really like how they've been showing up in content lately. They're doing a good job.
That's great. Yeah, that was a question from a viewer today that wanted to know who some of your favorite, most inspiring examples were. I hope other viewers will feel free to jump in and ask more questions as well. I have been really impressed with some of EY's work from a recruiting perspective, their content on their alumni and their recruiting efforts, and the whole focus on talent has been inspiring. That's a subject that I find really exciting, is the talent question. What does that look like from your perspective?
It's such an exciting thing for me to be part of LinkedIn, because I've not spent, most of my career has been in pretty typical B2B tech marketing. So I haven't been really close to the talent side of the organization other than to hire my own teams. So what I'm learning a ton about is how much intersection there really is between what marketing tries to do in the market and what talent is trying to do to establish an employer brand, really, or do recruitment marketing to help talent see these companies as the places that they want to work. Because the most important thing to think about is we as practitioners put ourselves in job roles. So I'm a marketer, you're a talent person, you're a data person, but our customers don't see that. So when they see the brand holistically online, they're not saying, oh, well, that's recruiter content or that's marketing content. That's just brand content. So we have to deliver some sense of continuity between all of those things, because people make judgments and assessments about our brand based on the big picture, not just based on judging, well, was that for a marketing purpose or a recruiting purpose? But those lines have blurred more than ever before in a digital world. And the brand that we create through marketing spills over and impacts our ability to recruit and retain talent, and vice versa. The way that we talk to talent pools, the way that we engage with our alumni, the way that we talk to broader markets in terms of career development also has an impact on our brand perception in a marketing context. So those things really should be working in lockstep. And the more forward-thinking companies I work with are doing exactly that.
We'd love to hear about any specifics you can share. And I presume that kind of recruiting and talent marketing is a big part of what brands are doing on LinkedIn. I wonder if you could talk to us a little bit about you've been doing some interesting writing lately about what works on LinkedIn specifically when it comes to content. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. And these rules apply sort of on the talent brand side as well as the marketing side. So I would consider these kind of universal guidelines. And if speaking of specific examples, by the way, if you want to look at some great companies who are doing great work in the employer branding space, Netflix is one of our bellwether examples. They do an amazing job with their talent brand. AB InBev, the owners of Budweiser beer, they do a great job with their brand. Another one is BP, the oil and gas company. They do a really interesting balance of content that educates about climate change and the environment, and also carrying through all of that to more of a purpose-led brand who is often in a much maligned space. They're in a challenging part of the world where they get a lot of criticism, and I think they do a really good, effective job with that. But when it comes to best practices, there's a couple of big buckets, I guess, that I could summarize things into. One is what we already talked about, making sure that content is relevant and specific to what our customers care about right now, not necessarily the marketing messages that we want to deliver. So if your customers are asking you questions or posing challenges about their own business, that is a goldmine for content. That's the stuff that you can create that can be useful and helpful and help you stand out in a very crowded market.
You've emphasized in that going on site with salespeople to be in the room to hear about questions, objections, whatever the case may be, so that we as marketers can then preempt some of those specific common questions and do the educating so that our sales partners can then focus on advisory and consultative work.
100%, because being in the marketing world, we tend to get a little bit removed from being in a customer-facing role. And we build personas and we do surveys and we do market research, but there is no substitute for getting in the room with your clients or on the phone with your salespeople and customers and hearing straight from the horse's mouth what it is that they're challenged with, because that is really the fuel for really great content. The second piece is we talked about not neglecting the value of like top to bottom funnel. So content that creates the entire journey, because marketing today is more like an engine. It's not really a funnel. Humans aren't linear. We don't take nice, neat steps through the journeys we take with companies. We're all over the place. So we really need to create content ecosystems that are always on and always available, and that somebody can find what they need in whatever moment they need it, and it'll be ready and waiting for them. And the last thing is not to neglect the sort of the look and feel of your content. Our digital platforms are very visual, and there's a diversity of media available to us to use. So there's images and there's text-based posts, there's video. On the paid side, there's carousel ads. There's all kinds of interesting things to do. And nobody consumes content quite the same way. I'm very text-driven. Some people are very visual. So having a diversity of media types, thinking through how you want your brand to carry across, especially on LinkedIn, you have a little image in the post and everybody's like, oh, well, my logo's up in the left-hand corner. But that's not how people consume content. As a matter of fact, on LinkedIn, 80% of our sponsored content interactions come from mobile devices. So people are looking at that content on their phone. And that little logo is tiny, teeny tiny up on the left-hand side, and it's not under the thumb where you would think that that's where people are looking. So having like a continuous, well-thought brand presence visually on the platform actually can pay a lot of dividends. So I always have lots of tips, but if you guys have questions, you can always ask me on Twitter or offline or something like that, because I have lots to share.
That's fantastic. And when it comes to the ideation phase, we've got a viewer that asks in comments how brands are relating today to content ideation. There's going on site with a customer. It's certainly a really important part of that. But is there a technology aspect of it as well?
Do you mean in terms of like coming up with content ideas? I suppose there is. I mean, I think to me, the role that technology plays is technology, and actually executing on the content is the last mile. I think the most important thing to be doing is using the technology available to us to mine the data, and everything from unstructured data and conversations that are happening. I mean, people are asking you questions on social media. People are interacting and engaging with your employees online. So like, what is the substance of those conversations? That's a really great place to get reference points. And frankly, like looking at not just your direct competitive set, because we all are watching our competitors all the time, but looking outside your realm to see what you can learn from other industries. So if you're in banking, what can you learn from technology? If you're in technology, what can you learn from hospitality? Because there's cool things happening all over the place, but we always we get a little tunnel visioned. So getting some inspiration from what good things are happening outside your space, I think is an underrated way to get content ideas.
People say that competition comes from outside of traditional sectors now because consumers have higher expectations for their customer experience. And so too, finding content ideas from beyond your traditional places that you're looking sounds like a really powerful place to apply some technology and some time and thought.
I think especially because I'm so immersed in the B2B world that B2B has always been boring and staid and sort of like it's so corporate. But I keep reminding B2B brands that you are not just competing with the people in your sector. When people are consuming content, they're getting that stuff in their feed from mainstream media, from consumer brands, so you're not just competing for attention from your competitors. There's so many other places. So you have to be able to keep pace with the cool stuff other people are doing, even if it's not in the same realm that you live and work in every day.
And then when it comes down to the nitty gritty of really making sure that content is getting used, you have discussed a troubling finding that the one study said 80% of, up to 80% of marketing's content may not be used by sales teams. And you offered some wise advice, I thought, when you said, don't just throw an intranet full of content at your sales team. Sit down with them and draw a specific line from stages in their customer's journey to specific pieces of content that you've created.
Yeah, absolutely. We often, as marketers, are guilty of the cardinal sin of if we build it, they will come. And so we'll build a portal, a sales portal, and we'll chock it full of content. We'll be like, we built everything you could possibly ask for. Now you're set for life. The problem is that salespeople, just like us, are challenged with only so many hours in the day. They have goals and quotas to meet, and they don't have the time nor necessarily the knowledge to go sifting through piles and piles of content to find just the right thing that will help them close a deal or move somebody along the process. So the exercise is sitting down with them and helping them understand what assets and content are available to them based on either the use case their client is trying to solve for, or if this person's really early in the journey, here's the good stuff. If this person's really ready to buy, here's a bunch of case studies. So there's a lot of ways to help them help you and remove the friction from that process so they can actually make use of the really great and labor-intensive content you're creating.
Well, Amber, this has been really thought-provoking and in a 30 minutes packed full of really useful advice and perspective. And it's great to catch up with you and to hear about your cool new job.
Thank you so much. It's been a blast, and I'm having fun out there. So thanks for letting me come and blather about my day-to-day work.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Well, everyone, I'd like to thank you for joining us here for the Sprinklr Coffee Club. I hope that you will continue to tune in. We're just getting started here with Coffee Club. I think that we're on about a 2-week cadence right now. Eventually, we may get up to a weekly cadence. But tell your friends, tell your family, post your comments, and jump on in and participate. We had some nice audience participation here today, and we'd welcome all the more of that in the future. But we really appreciate you taking the time here to learn from Amber with us, and we will look forward to speaking to you again soon here at the Sprinklr Coffee Club.